Hey, what is up, everybody, and welcome to the Get Your Bell Rung Football Podcast. He is Kevin Reynolds. I am Bobby Wall, and we are here to talk all things football and hit you with some takes that might rattle you up a bit. On tonight's show, we got a little bit of news and notes from around the league, not too many. We are definitely and obviously going to get into the Super Bowl, break that down. We'll give you our picks for sure, and then we will dip into our way, way too early top five wide receivers for this coming NFL fantasy season. Kevin, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Nearing the end of my cold. Unfortunately, my mom now is in full bore, which is a worrisome at 85. But it seems everybody up this way in South Central PA is sick. How are things down your way?
We're fine, Kevin. We're fine. It's all positive here. It's
It's
all
not
positive.
here.
It's
Sickness.
it's
It's
incredible.
sickness.
It is
Sickness.
it is wildly fascinating for me that no matter what, you can come up with something super negative to start a podcast. It's
It is negative. Negative, just like all your
interesting.
stupid pretend Eagles fans that live here and also in South Central PA.
Got nothing to do with me, my friend. For
Well,
those of you not
whatever.
watching, just listening to the podcast, I'm flashing the Minister of Defense, Mr. Reggie White, rocking that jersey right now. Hopefully, we can summon some of his good spirits to help us win the Super Bowl. Man, this guy was insane
No,
as a rookie.
he's a
What?
little before your time. By the time you were old
Actually,
enough to be out of
yeah,
diapers, he was playing for the Packers.
his rookie year was the year I was born.
That's what I'm
Um,
saying. How could you
but that
you've only probably seen highlights of him with the Eagles.
well, whenever I very first started watching football and became a fan, the Eagles were my very first and only team I've ever been a fan of. And it was about 1991, 92. Those were his last couple years in Philly. So I did get to see a little bit of it. But
Okay.
I loved him in Green Bay. There's a play when the Packers are going up against the Patriots in the Super Bowl, when he brings that big right arm and clubs their right tackle and just throws him on the ground to get a sack. It's he was impressive, man. 13 sacks as a rookie, then 18, then 21, then another 18. There's no way anyone has more than that many sacks in their first 4 years. Now, I don't know that to be
Probably
100% true,
not.
but come on. That's
So
incredible.
I was dominating people with Super Tecmo Bowl with Reggie White and Jerome
Randall
Brown and those
Cunningham,
fellas while you were still sucking your freaking thumb.
not much of a thumb sucker. I wasn't personally, but I understand what you're saying.
The way you said that just didn't sound right.
I'm sure. I'm sure. One thing I want to say that we missed last week, we should have gone over, was a pretty significant, in my opinion, coaching signing. Was the Miami Dolphins picked up Vic Fangio. This guy's been a defense, and to be their defensive coordinator, he's been a defensive coordinator since 1995. Now he had a break in the action. I actually think he was what, linebackers coach for your Ravens.
At some point, yeah, a while
Yeah,
back.
yeah. For like maybe 3 or 4 years. He's had a top scoring defense 10 times, which, it's been since 1995. Yeah, but 8 of those have come in the last 11 years. Last year, Miami was 11th in points scored, but 24th in points given up. Their 5 final losses, including the playoffs, were one-score games. The Dolphins were terrible defending the pass, and guess what Vic Fangio is great at? Designing defenses to defend the pass. I think this could catapult Miami up to the. I'm not going to say they're going to dethrone the Bills just yet, but the Bills have shown some weakness, some chinks in the armor. So, and Miami, they made the playoffs this year. So don't be surprised to see them there again. Maybe for the next few years.
Could be, could be. Still got to have the horses to pull the wagon. On that same note, I believe yesterday afternoon, Brian Flores was hired as the new DC up in Minnesota. Same thing. You have this
Yes,
offense
yes.
who can at least at times score at will, but a defense who was, I think, 31st in the league in yardage, 31st in the league in points given up. Just awful. You score 33 points and you still lose. So that's another big one. And I guess his lawsuit continues through all that, but don't really know about all the ins and outs of that. But yeah, that's another big defensive hire. Oh,
Yeah,
there's
but the one
another
thing,
thing we missed last week.
what's that? Well, real quick on the Flores thing.
Go ahead.
The one thing that's interesting about him though is he's never actually been a defensive
That's
coordinator.
correct.
Yeah, I mean he's been a head coach for 3 years for the Dolphins, but other than that, he has not been a head coach.
Which he got screwed, got the screws put to him on that whole
Yeah,
deal.
that was
He's
such a weird thing, man.
so stupid. But neither one of us were very happy when he got fired. We thought it was very foolish. We completely skipped over the Devontae Smith catch not one-handed catch not catch. We
You
didn't
know
even
why? Yeah, you probably
we were
there
talking
was
so many other things
yeah.
we just didn't think about, and how it's the only sport in the world that you can just hurry up and continue play to thwart the referees. Something needs to be done with that.
And I mean the dead giveaway when he gets up and starts banging his fist together like this.
Yep.
It's first off, hats off to you, Devontae. What a smart play.
Well, yeah.
And good for the offense for seeing it, running down and running a play within seconds. I don't know how the offensive lineman even got down the field that fast.
Yeah.
I mean, they were moving. And the only thing I can come up with, and I think they said it on the broadcast, was that the angles that we were seeing on the broadcast is exactly what they were seeing in New York. And by the time they showed the angle where you could definitely tell he dropped it, the play had already been run.
Right.
So
But that's again why
agreed
there
with
should be
you.
something to stop the
Yes.
play for 20 seconds. I mean, you have sports now like the NBA, soccer. Well, they'll actually continue play, and then when the time stops, they'll actually go back and look at something that happened,
Right.
and make changes to them. I don't know what you would do, but they got to do something, because stuff like that's just too much. It has too much effect on games, but it's all good in the hood.
If you can immediately stop a play for a suspected head injury, surely you can stop to
Right.
check the replay.
It doesn't, and people say, "Well, we'll make the game too long." Well, it only comes up a handful of times. I'm not
Right.
suggesting you do it for every holding call. There's holding on every play, but it's something like that. I don't get the subjectiveness of when you're going to do it. And a team said that you don't even have to be subjective; can just hurry up and hike the ball, and it doesn't even matter.
And guess what? Nobody cares. The NFL is king. You could stop the game 12 times for 15 minutes a pop, and everyone would still watch.
Of course they
It
would,
doesn't matter what
because
you
I don't
do.
usually want the games to be over. I'm usually annoyed when the games are over.
I mean, absolutely no one cares about the All-Star game, by the way. The quote
Yeah.
Pro Bowl that just
I watched
happened.
roughly 0 minutes of that.
I actually watched a few. The events they had were very slightly more entertaining than the game itself because of what the game turned into, basically a glorified two-hand touch scrimmage. But yeah, gosh, what a huge waste of time. And we talked last week about how embarrassing it is who actually gets voted into the Pro Bowl. It's just pointless to do any of it, honestly.
It sure is. Oh, and to
Um,
touch on something from last week, we talked about them having for the quarterbacks having that extra spot. It turned out that was a rule through the mid 90s is when it stopped, because back
really?
then you could only dress 46. They had this 47th, you could have a third quarterback. But once they upped it to 53, they got rid of that altogether, figuring a team, if they really have to, they can have three quarterbacks. Well, because of things with the union, because of safety and all this stuff, and everybody and their mother leaves the game with a hangnail, now that's sort of run its course too. So they really should think about adding this again. It was on PFT today. Florio was talking about it because Christian McCaffrey brought it up. Of course, most of the morons that follow him didn't understand what McCaffrey was saying. That they thought
I didn't know that.
They thought that you can't. Some of these people think you can't have a third quarterback. Well, you can have 17 quarterbacks on your roster if you want, but then you don't have that depth. And then the NFLPA is crying. So just add it. How hard is it? Just add the 54th for the playoffs.
Yeah. Again, I mentioned this last week. You deserve credit because I thought that was a fantastic idea and
It's so simple.
Innovate, simple yet innovative. And that I didn't know that was a rule in the 90s. So thank you for that. My favorite quote of the week was Sean Payton in an interview when a reporter said, "Hey, Russell Wilson has his own coaches and personnel that come with him into the building and have access to all this stuff. How do you feel about that?" And he said, "I don't know. I've never heard of that. That's foreign to me. It's not going to happen on my watch." Oh my
Loved it.
gosh. Absolutely Loved it. I am so pumped for this. I don't even care how it turns out. I just, it's so great.
Yeah,
Oh man, thank you,
I
Sean
love it
Payton.
too.
Thank you.
Putting Russ in his place, and we discussed before the show. You had not realized this, that Russ is, from what I'm reading, the only player in the league that has his own private office in the building.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Well, he
That's
hasn't
gonna be
said
Sean
no to
Payton's
that
coat
yet, but I
closet.
imagine that that's next, that that's coming. I mean, it's just the diva status of the dude is ridiculous. It'd be one thing back when he was winning and making Super Bowls, but now, how do you really, how do you play it off to your teammates? I'm so important. I
And
have
he
my
does
own
funny
office. I have my
things.
own crew. They get their own rules.
And see, here's the deal. If he rolled out there, like you said, if he was winning Super Bowls, if the Broncos were still in it right now, no one would care. No one would say anything. Tom Brady's, his trainer had free reign or whatever, I'm pretty sure. And that's under Bill Belichick's watch.
He did at one point, but then Belichick
Right.
kicked him out the
Right.
building. Yeah,
Right. But he did at least
he
for a
did at
little
one
bit,
point. Yeah,
right? Because Tom Brady's doing his thing. If you were winning championships, or at least even in the running since it's your first year in Denver, I bet Sean Payton turns a blind eye. But you're not, dude.
no,
So sorry about you.
no, you got your limp finger and you can't throw a
Yeah.
football anymore. So you best start winning some games again, throwing up some stats before you continue the diva status. It's going to be interesting to see how it happens. If Russ is going to embrace all this, or if they'll just butt heads right from the beginning.
It's going to come down to ownership, right? Because ownership brought in the $250 million man, Russ Wilson, but they also brought in Sean Payton. So they brought in both guys. Who are they going to side with? Because at the end of the day, it's going to come to ownership. If they want Russ to have that stuff, they put that word down, and then Sean Payton's hands are tied or he quits. So
Yeah,
I think you got to side with the Super Bowl winning coach over the Super Bowl winning quarterback. But we'll see. Like you said, it's going to be a nice little off-season story to keep tabs on.
it certainly is. I'm excited about it.
All right, sir. The Super Bowl. I I'm trying to be very excited. I'm trying to be positive. Normally, I'm very pessimistic when it comes to my real NFL team and my all of my fantasy teams. But the Eagles have made it difficult. Third highest scoring offense in the league. They were ninth in passing, third in rushing. And this was all with Hurts missing 2 games. They had the most rushing touchdowns in league history, counting the playoffs. They're the eighth best scoring defense. They were second in yards, and they had the most sacks in the league by what, 15? Interestingly enough, the team that was second in the league in sacks were the Kansas City Chiefs. They're also first in the points scored, first in yards, first in passing yards, only 20th in rushing yards, but you got Patrick Mahomes. Who cares? Now, their defense is where it slides a little bit. Philly was good on both sides of the ball. Chiefs had the 16th best scoring defense, eighth best rush, but not very good against the pass. Only 18th there. Um, the interesting thing, and the last thing I'll say about the Chiefs is they were second in the league in sacks, like I mentioned, behind Philly, but somehow they gave up the 18th most passing yards and the most passing touchdowns in the league. So it seems like basically they got a sack or the other team completed the pass. It's odd to have that many sacks with that. I don't want to say poor because it's middle of the road as far as passing yards go, but to give up that many passing touchdowns, that's an interesting stat. And I know what you're going to say. Go ahead and say it.
Is it simply because the Chiefs are up by 28 every game, so
It is.
that happens? But
There it is.
I guess you've seen by now that on the season that the Eagles and the Chiefs scored the exact same number of points.
How is that possible?
I don't know,
Oh, with
but
the playoffs?
I
Counting the
guess
playoffs, possibly.
yeah,
Okay.
they're both
I'll
at
buy
the
that.
exact same number now. So
Gotcha.
so that sort of goes out the window because teams are behind the Eagles a lot too. The Eagles just have a way better secondary.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's one of those things that when you get to the Super Bowl, by then it's the whole cliche that you can just throw all the numbers out because they really don't matter at this point. You got
The
2 weeks to
numbers don't,
prepare. You've got 2 weeks to
but the
heal.
personnel does.
Yes, personnel does. So Snead is back, so that's going to help. There, Andy Reid, anytime he has 2 weeks to prepare for somebody, usually can put something good together. It'll be interesting how Sirianni handles all this.
I mentioned that
I
last
don't know.
week
This is all
with
just
Sirianni.
what's that?
I mentioned that last week about how I love his youthful exuberance. He's going nuts on the sidelines. He's like playing to the camera if he sees it. I just hope that he can keep it together and keep his team focused and not over emotional for this ride.
Yeah. I think this will really be these are two high scoring offenses, good defenses. It's going to come down to a couple turnovers here or there. I expect a close game. Like you, I think if it would be a blowout, it would probably be the Eagles to win.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, this is a tough. I mean, two number ones for the first time, I think, since 2017 that the two ones
Yeah, it's
were
been
in
a
it
while.
against each other. Man, there's just so much that goes into this. Two just badass quarterbacks. I don't know. It's so tough. They could play 20 times. They'd each win 10.
Right. Well, yeah, and you know what? You might be 100%, 100% right there. The thing that lets me side with the Eagles is two things. Number one is that if the Eagles go out there and decide if they can shut down Kansas City's passing game, listen, enormously tall task. If they can, I'm not sure the Chiefs are going to be able to run the ball on them if they absolutely had to. However, the Eagles can run or pass, right? They can do both of those things if need be. And the second thing would, number one, being the Eagles can do both pass and run against the defense. So if the Kansas City shuts down one, they have the other to fall back on. Kansas City doesn't really have that. And then number two is just the Eagles defense in general. The Eagles defense is better than Kansas City's defense. The offensive lines are both good. I think PFF had Philly as a number one offensive line. Kansas City is a number four, I
Yeah,
think.
I saw that today.
Yeah. So they're pretty even there. It's just those two things I think are going to help, hopefully, in my opinion, help Philly get that victory for their second Super Bowl in what, 5 years?
Ugh, so freaking irritating.
Um, did you? I wrote down some keys to victory. Can I go over those with you? Tell me what you think.
Yeah, knock yourself out. I look at
Awesome.
your keys briefly this
Okay.
afternoon.
Yeah, and that's an advantage you have when we go into these shows is I type up a few show notes and you get to go over them. You
I
don't
don't
want me
really
to
go
know
over
any.
them. I skim them real quick in the afternoon and move on with my life.
So you tell me you don't study, you don't put them under your pillow and study them and
I'm most
every night
definitely
before you
not.
go to
It's
bed.
most of the time it's just foolishness anyway.
Sure, sure.
I'm pretty sure like that two of your three keys to victory for the Chiefs were the
Yeah.
exact same thing. I mean, so I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just what I'm saying. It's just shenanigans. You can
Okay,
go to
that's
San
fair.
Francisco, it's just
That's fair.
shenanigans.
That's fair. Um, Victory for the Eagles. If they want to do that, they have to pressure Mahomes with four. I think you brought that up a couple shows ago. Like,
It was
it's
last
not
week.
just
Yeah. That's how you shut
it's
down
not
Brady. It's how you shut down Mahomes. Bring pressure
it's
with
not
four, so you
yes.
have seven back covering all those little angles.
Yep. They need to keep the chains moving on offense. They got to keep Mahomes on the bench. And I'm not even talking about scoring a ton of points. Like, you don't have to score a touchdown on every drive, I don't think, to win this game. Just keep the chains moving. Let that defense rest. Let your big boys up front catch their breath so they can keep bringing heat. And then they need to win the turnover battle. The Chiefs were worse than Philly by a lot in terms of not only giving up turnovers, but also getting them. So if Philly can do those three things, I think they're sitting pretty. And then for the Chiefs, like you said, number one, I said they need to protect Mahomes. And honestly, okay, I'll get to that in a second. So protect Mahomes. Number two, make splash plays because you have MVS. Kadarius Toney's hurt. Juju Smith-Schuster's hurt. They're going to have to make some big plays to stick in this and stay with the Philly. But then my third key to victory is protect Mahomes. That's it. That's their squad. It's just like the Patriots. If they can protect Brady, he's going to win you the game. If you can protect Mahomes, it's really tough to root against him or to put your money against him.
He's a
I just
beast.
think I just think the Eagles are going to be able to rattle him.
They're going to have to do it like the Bucks did a few years ago there because really he was just running for his freaking life. I think
Yes.
in that game he set the NFL record for yards run behind scrimmage that year,
Well,
didn't
there's
he?
one play where he ran like 82.
Yes, it
So
was it was in the hundreds of yards of how many yards he was running for his life. And I'm pretty sure it was an NFL record. And they did it with four. He had nowhere to throw, nothing to do the whole game, never had a chance at any of those deep throws either because he just was running. Basically, get the ball, he was already two steps and he was running for his life. And the thing is, the Eagles, they have the players to do it. I mean, there's a reason that they're favored to win this game, and that's why. They have all the things that they have a better defense, not by a lot, but it is better. And they have a better running game. I don't think it's the Chiefs necessarily don't have a good running game. They just don't even try. They just don't even care.
Sure.
They just abandoned it about a quarter of the way through the season. Pacheco, we see him just bowling through people, but you give him 7 carries. It makes little
He
sense.
gets a Miles Sanders treatment sometimes.
He does. But the thing is with Miles Sanders, though, they still run. They just don't let him run it. They give it to Gainwell and Buddy Boston Scott. The Chiefs just don't run. They just don't. Their run is just short. Is the very short passing game.
All right.
If the Eagles can do this, they're good. So the over under is 51. Where are you going with that?
51. Yeah. You know what's hilarious? My projection for this game, and I scouts honor or whatever. I did not know that was the over under. My projection for this game comes exactly to 51.
Oh wow. What is your projection?
If I had to pick one, I'd probably pick the over.
What are you, like 27-24, something like that?
That's exactly my prediction.
Because
Eagles
I'm at
27.
34-27 Chiefs.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they're going to handle it this time. I think they're going to have some schemes to deal with that defensive pressure.
Listen, Andy Reid's not a defensive guy, but he's a great head coach, man. And he doesn't hire dummies. If you look at the Andy Reid coaching tree, those guys leave him like a Doug Peterson we just saw with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Doug Peterson, who won the Super Bowl with Philly a few years ago. Those guys know what they're doing, man.
Yeah. So I've obviously got the over, and I have, of course, Mahomes then probably most likely being MVP. Who's your MVP? Obviously, it's going to be an Eagle.
Yeah, I didn't go that far, but if Eagles still up 27 points and they win this thing, it's got to be Jalen Hurts. Unless, here's my dark horse pick. If I had to go off, flying off the handle here, Hassan Reddick, guy who, in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. If he goes out here and gets 2.5, 3 sacks, forces a turnover, gets a turnover like he did last game, we could have that dark horse defensive MVP, which I think's only happened twice in Super Bowl history, maybe. I mean, it hasn't happened often.
It doesn't happen often.
The one dude for the Buccaneers that no one had heard of before or after, he had 2 picks and one for a touchdown.
Oh, I think. Yes.
And then was it like Bob Lilly or somebody for the Cowboys in like the 70s or something?
Yeah, there's been
the Super Bowl MVP.
I think there's been a couple more than that though. Because I was actually looking at a list today.
Please do bring that up.
Yeah.
So I do find it interesting that I hit the over under right on the head. But I want to share something with you that I'm not sure that actually. I'm not, because we didn't really talk this week. But I've had a bucket list item that I wanted to do. And if the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I always said that I was either going to go to the city the game was in or be in Philly for the game. And last time that the Eagles made it to the Super Bowl, my girlfriend slash mother of my child was 8.5 months pregnant. And there was not a chance in this world that I was going to risk missing the birth of my son, not for my Eagles winning a title, not for anything. So I did not go. So this time around, she knew that this was a hope and dream of mine. So she actually got us a spot to stay in Philly. So I'm going to be up in Philly this weekend for the Super Bowl. So we'll see how it goes when I'm surrounded by tons and tons of people. Not really my thing as I age, but we're staying at the Live Casino in Philly, so we don't have to leave. All of our food, our beverages, everything we need, entertainment is all right there in the same building, which I like. But I'm pretty pumped, man. I get to watch my Eagles surrounded by my Philly brethren, and hopefully we pull out a W.
We were talking about this before the show, the we, and how irritating Eagles fans are here in PA, and how the only really reason I want the Eagles to lose is all the idiots that I can't stand that run around wearing green all of a sudden. And then when I speak to them about it, tell them, we do a show and they can't name 3 players on the team. So all I'll say is if they win, be wary of the greased up light poles.
I'm not leaving the casino, man.
And
I'm
if they
staying right
don't,
there, buddy.
well, they might grease up some stuff in there. And if they lose, be wary of the flying batteries.
Uh, yeah. If they lose, I'm going straight to my room.
Here's a question. Are you going to answer your phone during the game, or is this going to be one of those
Not a chance. Not
sweet
a chance.
Jesus? You are a piece of work.
A piece of work. I know.
Wee,
All right,
wee,
you ready?
wee, my. Unbelievable. But at
You,
least it'll be cool to be up there. That's pretty neat.
yeah, honestly, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. You ready to dig into our way? Oh, wait, did you look up the Super Bowl MVPs?
Yes. So Von Miller won in Super Bowl 50. Malcolm Smith for Seattle in 48.
I think there's been quite
Uh,
a few then.
what's that?
Well, there's at least twice as many as I thought.
Yeah, Dexter Jackson was the one you were thinking
That's
about,
it.
and then Ray Lewis won it, and then there's a few other. Larry Brown at one point for Dallas. Richard
Oh
Gage
yeah,
for
against the Steelers.
those 86
That was
85
when
Bears. Yeah,
that was when the Cowboys beat Neil O'Donnell and the
yeah.
Steelers. I remember that.
Harvey Martin and Randy White for Dallas.
Randy White. That's who I was thinking of.
Jake Scott, safety for Miami in Super Bowl 7. Chuck
So we
Howley,
got
Super Bowl 5, linebacker for
10,
Dallas.
10, 11-ish,
About
something like
10,
that.
yeah. About
Okay.
10 in there. Yeah.
That's good to know. I mean, I wasn't even close.
Yeah, I mean, it
That's
does
good.
happen. And we even had a kick returner, Desmond Howard, of course. Super
Yeah,
Bowl
for
31
sure.
for Green Bay.
Oh yeah. That was the first time, and that was the first time that a opening kickoff. Wasn't that the opening kickoff?
Yeah, yeah, he ran it back, set
Yeah.
the 244 all-purpose yards and that 99-yard kick return TD.
All right, sir. Way too early. Top 5 wide receivers. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Before we get into it, I do want to say that there were only 2 guys who had repeated top 5 performances from 2021 to 2022, and only one from the year previous to that, from 2020 to 2021. So there aren't too many guys that repeat. So keep that in mind whenever we're coming up with our lists. I'm sure our number 1 is the same guy, and that's Justin Jefferson.
Sure is.
Come on now. Wide receiver 6, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 1 last year, all since entering the NFL. I mean, he's the best wide receiver in football. Most catches by wide receiver in his first 3 seasons probably. I know he has the most targets in the first 3 seasons of any receiver in the NFL. He's only 23. He ran more routes than anyone last year. Number 1 in yards after the catch. A little surprising for me, but he was also number 1 in red zone targets. This is the guy. There's nobody else.
If Kirk Cousins could just grow a little bit more testicular fortitude,
Okay. All right.
his numbers would be even better. But like we said, when a shutdown corner comes in, he just doesn't even bother throwing to him because Kirk's scared of him. So JJ, I don't know how, barring injury, how do you not call him one? The only guy that's even in his league is Cup, as far as not just skill, but also the opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree. And man, if Cooper Kupp comes back and Matt Stafford, if they're both healthy, Cooper Kupp could just take off right where he left off.
I have him at
And
number 2 because it was a freak injury. He
Yep.
ended up, at least in my format, 26th, and he only played 8 games. And he still is the number 26 receiver with only 8 games. He missed more than half of the season.
Yeah. I think he was wide receiver 24, 25 in my league in half-point PPR. And he's a wide receiver 2. He played half the season.
Yeah, he played half the season. It's just freaking sickening. So I still have him at 2 until they, again, it's that thing I said last week, until it's proven otherwise. I don't, it's an injury he's going to come back from. Apparently his rehab's going great. And I don't really see the offense changing much. I think Kellen Moore, if anything, he might even get more opportunities because they don't really have much else to throw to.
Yeah. The only thing that scares me with Jefferson is when he had a low, it was really low. I mean, we're talking wide receiver 44 one week, 76 one week, wide receiver 53, 87.
Including the playoffs, fantasy playoffs.
Wide receiver 87 in week 17.
Kirk wouldn't throw to him.
Insane.
Just didn't bother.
Now, Cup was your 2. He's my 3. Although I wouldn't be surprised if by the time the season came around, he was my wide receiver 2. I mean, hell, if Cooper Cup comes out and in the preseason he is who he was, I might push him up to 1 because
Yeah.
he was wide receiver 1 2 seasons ago by almost 70 points. I mean, this is Travis Kelce domination in your position, right? I mean, it's no one's even in the ballpark. 70 points. If you average 20 points a game, he beat you by 3.5 games.
Yeah.
You know, crazy. He still had the highest points per game of any wide receiver this year before getting hurt. And he was wide receiver 4 in 2019. So it's not like this is new ground for him. He's been here before. He played in the 8 full games he played, he never had less than 16 fantasy points. That is, if your wide receiver 1 got you 16 fantasy points every single week, you're not super pumped, but you're not that upset. But he never went below that ever. He had at least 100 yards receiving and or a touchdown in 6 of those 8. It's just, man, Stafford comes back, he stays healthy, and Cup is healthy. He could be wide receiver 1. That we could be doing this next year, and he's our wide receiver 1 again.
He just like JJ, actually maybe more than JJ. It's not just skill, but it's volume on top of it. In a lot of other offenses, there'd be a viable guy, which is like my number 3. I think your number 2 coming up, Chase.
Yeah.
He's got all the skill in the world. He's got the guy who's like maybe the future of the quarterback position, but he also has T. Higgins, which cuts into his ceiling just a little bit. Sure. Yeah.
And Cooper Cup does the Devontae Adams thing and the Travis Kelce thing, where the opposing team knows that you are all they have, and yet somehow you are completely
7 yards on every play
in the middle of the field. There's no one around you.
And the thing is that it's not just his route running, it's not just his hands, but the dude just puts his head down, like McCaffrey, and they're just gone. His speed, his football speed is so much farther ahead than his 40 speed, all that combine crap that doesn't really mean anything. The dude just outruns everybody.
I played football in college with a guy. He was our strong safety. He ran like maybe a 4.7 40, slow. He was an All-American at strong safety.
Yeah.
On the field in those pads, there's nobody faster than him. I ran a 4.4 4.40, and he would pass me on the field. It was uncanny. I have no idea. This guy was so wild, and that's exactly what Cooper Cup does.
Yeah, he's a beast.
And I don't know how they're wide open. I know I mentioned
you and I'll be talking about it. We'll be watching the game, and it's like, why? How is he just 7 yards open? Why? What is going on here? And it's not just once, like a busted scheme. It's like this play, and then 2 plays later, and then 2 plays after that, he just nobody were close to him.
These guys catch a pass, and they're the only guy in the screen.
I know it's
watching him on TV.
It's true. It's like watching Traylon Burks in college. Didn't pan out as well this year.
Yes,
so he had some moments, but he looked the same in college. Just like let's just let that guy go. We'll cover everybody else and see if they can beat us with the best guy on the field.
And that's why he's my number 1 wide receiver coming out.
Brilliant
because if
strategy.
You can do that, my number 2, like you mentioned, and your 3, I guess, Jamar Chase, kind of feels like cheating because if he hadn't missed 4 games, he would definitely have been there. I mean, like I said, he missed 5 games. He was still wide receiver 11.
That matters. People being hurt.
You're right.
There's a reason there's never a whole bunch of, or that there's so much turnover in the top 5 every year, because it's a handful, like a month of missed games or 8 missed games, or even just 2 missed games is enough to put you at 7th instead of 5th.
Right. His points per game, he would have been a top 5 receiver this year. He was wide receiver 5 2 years ago. He's got a great offense. You had mentioned T. Higgins, and yes, T. Higgins, takes some targets and things from him, but it also takes some heat off of him. It's tough to double team anyone in the Bengals offense because you don't want T. Higgins running free, and you don't want Jamar Chase running free either. Chase was 3rd in red zone targets, which is big time because he missed 5 games, right? Yeah. So, and still being 3rd in red zone targets, Burrow looks for him in the painted grass. And
but again, the reason he suffers, he does score a lot. He really does. But he only had, because of T. Higgins and because of Tyler Boyd too, he
Sure.
only had 400-yard games.
Yeah.
He only had double-digit receptions twice, and those were only 10. He never had more than 10 receptions a game because they don't need him to be that guy. I agree with you completely that also having two of the top 10 receivers in the league helps them both, but it does cut into the overall fantasy production of both.
He is a big play guy. And
He
if you
is.
remember, coming in to this season, I had Jamar Chase. He was most folks' wide receiver 2 coming in, or 3, somewhere around there. And I think I had him at 5 or 6.
You did because you thought
Simply
there's no way he'd be able to repeat that number of touchdowns.
right. And guess or just big plays in general.
Yeah.
And guess what? He did for
He
the
did.
most part, right? As long as he was healthy. So look, fool me once, shame on you, but you ain't gonna fool me twice. I'm on board, man. I mean, he had 1,000 yards receiving. He had more catches this year than he did last year in 5 less games.
Yeah. Only
So
played 12 games.
I know I'm on board, man. I'm not gonna be. I'm not gonna let him trick me, or I'm not gonna let myself trick myself again. Is that what happened? Because
Trick yourself. The
I don't
things
know.
you come up with are just
I don't know. I'm not
asinine.
going to be wrong on Jamar Chase again, or unless he proves me wrong, and then that's whatever. But I'm rolling with him. How
Yeah.
about your wide receiver 4?
So 4, I've got a guy, Mr. CD Lamb, who ended up about what, 6th or 7th, 8th
6 for me
in
and
my
half point.
league. He ended up, yes, 6 also through 17 weeks. But I'm pretty sure the final 9 weeks of the season he was either 1 or 2.
He
Dak,
balled out,
once
buddy.
Dak came back, man, he just throws to him. He peppers him. Uh, the first half of the year, he didn't even have a 100-yard game. Didn't even have double-digit receptions. Second half, he had 11, 10, 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 500-yard games.
5
1,
games. Yep.
2, 3, 4, 5 touchdowns. Even threw in a couple rushes. I think that offense will go more and more through him. I'm still scared a little bit of McCarthy, but I think with McCarthy's job on the line, them tagging Pollard, Zeke taking a pay cut, I think they're going to throw the ball to him endlessly, if not only so McCarthy can keep his job.
So when I did my show notes and came up with this, it was, I don't know, I think 2 weeks ago. I tried to get ahead of the ball game here. And if I were going to do it today, CD Lamb's my wide receiver 5, by the way. So we were very close here. It scares me a bit. Now, obviously, we have a long, long way until August and September. But for reasons that you stated, one of the things I wrote in my notes was that CeeDee Lamb has a really good offensive coordinator who moves him all over the formation and schemes the ball to him. I mean, CeeDee Lamb runs out of the slot. I don't have the numbers. I bet it's close to how many times he lines up out wide. I mean,
Yeah.
they put him in situations where he is going to succeed. Okay, that's how he dominated the Eagles. You got 2 great corners outside, put him in the slot, right? Awesome move by them. They fired their offensive coordinator. Kellen Moore's gone. He's with the Chargers now. And who do they bring in? Brian Schottenheimer. Okay. What does he do? Runs the football. Who's calling the plays now? Mike McCarthy. Oh my gosh. This scares me. Honestly, I bet by the time the season rolls around, I I move CD Lamb down. Hopefully they go out and get not hopefully as an Eagles fan, but as far as fantasy goes, hopefully they go out and get a better wide receiver too. Because I don't see them putting him in the slot and scheming him open like the previous regime did with Kellen Moore. They're going to need someone to take heat off of him because teams are going to double team bracket coverage. The running game I worry about. Like as far as one thing we liked about the Bengals and those receivers is that they had a running game to open up the passing game, right? Those things work in tandem. I'm not sure the Cowboys are going to have that next year. Now, Pollard, maybe we'll see coming back from a pretty serious injury. Zeke is going downhill every
Real
single
fast.
year. I
Every
know,
single
I know,
minute.
but still top what running back 1, right? No matter what.
But
But
man,
I
I
don't
see.
know,
I'm
man.
with you to a point. But even McCarthy, as ridiculous he is, he sees what works here, and he knows his job is going to be on the line. They are expected to win next year. He's going. I don't care if they make the playoffs again and go one or win one game and then they're out. He's going. I just can't see him not going down, fighting with every last thing. And the best player on your team is right there. Sure, I mean, we're going to have to see how this goes. But Dak loves throwing. I don't think it's going to be as drastically different of an offense as what we're thinking. I
Well,
just
for
think
CeeDee Lamb
McCarthy
to
will
go,
make. I think McCarthy generally will call good plays, but where he struggles is when you really need something intelligent, something smart, something changed. He really struggles when it matters most. That's when he falls apart, whether it's calling plays, clock management, personnel. He falters when it matters
yes.
most. But I can still see this guy throwing up 110 catches for 1,400 yards and 12 touchdowns.
So CeeDee Lamb, out between the 20s and outside of 2-minute drills is going to be great. That's what you're telling me.
Well, I'm not saying he'll be horrible in those moments. I'm saying that McCarthy
Yeah.
sometimes just gets a little ahead of himself and does some stupid things. But we'll
Hey, who's your
see.
last guy?
I'm sticking with my number 5, Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's my boy. That
You know
offense
it's
is going to be
Amon,
even
right?
better. We talked last week. Some people are predicting him to be the number 1 offense in the league next year. I think Jameson Williams coming back is going to just take a little heat off of him. He is going.
Yes.
He's in the slot. He
Yes.
just endless catches. Goff and him obviously have a rapport. And if he hadn't missed a few games this year, he would have been top 5, and I would have been right. But injuries count, so I wasn't.
They do. Uh, so when I was thinking about this list and a day or two ago, I decided that CeeDee Lamb's probably not going to be on it. I started thinking about who would probably replace him. And I hate to say it, but it will probably would be Amon-Ra St. Brown, especially with Jamison Williams coming back. I think you underplayed that when you just spoke about it because yes, they had DJ Chark, but our defense is really afraid of DJ Chark. I don't think so. Our defense is afraid of a guy that what did you say during a show a couple weeks ago? Jameson Williams had 3 touches and they were all for touchdowns.
Yeah,
I
just
mean, and
two
one
for
of them,
two, 2 plays,
well,
2 touchdowns,
no, but
40 and
one of them was a
41.
rush. Didn't he have a rush for a
Yeah, it was a
touchdown?
40-yard touchdown rush and a 41-yard touchdown
Okay.
catch.
God, I thought he had 2 receiving touchdowns. My apologies. But regardless, he is going to be fully healthy, and he is. If you don't watch him over the top, he will burn you no matter what.
He could end up being the
And
steal of last year's draft.
the absolute, I mean, it would be thievery. It could be,
Yeah.
and good for the Lions. But I think that opens up so much for Amon-Ra. I really, really do. Both of us liked him coming out. Um, and his skill set is so perfect for Jared Goff. The little guy running across the field, he's
Yeah.
always there. Jared Goff's under pressure. My first read is covered. What do? I look up. Oh, there he is, the sun god. I'll just
Always
give him
open, always run where he's supposed to be, and catches freaking
great
everything.
hands.
And that first
Great
guy
hands.
doesn't make a tackle, it might be bye-bye.
That's right. And for me, the guy that lives in the top 5 is Devontae Adams. He's my wide receiver 4. He's been a top 5 wide receiver for the last 5 years. He is, or the only year he wasn't, he only played in 12 games. But even then, he was wide receiver 7 in points per game, so he was close. Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Jarrett Stidham, Shane Falco. I don't care who this guy's quarterback is, he gets it done. You could argue if you were starting a team and you had to pick the league's best wide receiver, there's an argument it's him. Just in
Yeah.
general, just overall,
As
no
far
matter
as
what.
his skill set and
Correct.
route running,
Correct. Yep.
catching.
Yep. He gets 100 targets in his sleep. This guy can take over a game. We even saw it this year with the Raiders. Just absolutely take. He had 7 games of over 27 fantasy points. 7.
Yeah. But
Good
that's where I was going
grief.
to come. He had a bit of a roller coaster year because he also had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games under 9.
Yeah, that's right.
Uh,
Hopefully, and look, you made a good point off air because you said you did not have Devontae Adams, and why was that?
don't know who's throwing to him.
That's right. So that's going to be it. That's we're going to see. Now it's going to be very difficult after seeing him with, Jarrett Stidham and Derek Carr, who I mean he's okay, but he's not the best quarterback in the league. See who they get in there, but it's going to be real tough. for me. I mean, if they roll Nick Mullins out there week 1, then yeah, I'll drop him out of my top 5. But other than that, it's going to be tough for me to take him out.
Yeah, yeah, and I most likely will move him up when I find out who's throwing to him. The whole Brady retiring thing really threw a cog into that. So many people, the odds on in Vegas were that he'd either stay with the Bucks or go to the Raiders to get back with Josh McDaniels. So that's going. Will Rodgers maybe get traded there, or is he going to? Right now he's in this no sound, no light.
Yeah, the darkness retreat.
Escape for 4 days to figure out if he wants to play football anymore. So that's going to be so big. But yeah, the guy's a monster. It's hard to doubt him. I'm still a little worried about the up and down thing, but that's as much about the Raiders as anything. If they can get somebody decent in, how can you not have in your top 6 or 7?
Yeah, for sure. Before we get out of here, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I got to throw one at you like I do every week.
All right, go ahead. You
one
first.
Guy that you have that nobody in the world, like I did Amon Ra last year with 5, and you ripped me a new one over it, but I was almost right. One guy you think that could make a splash and end up top 5.
Can I cheat?
I don't know how you could cheat. All you're doing is naming a name. Are you naming somebody that doesn't exist, or are you implying you have a time machine or looking at next year's stats?
What if I say Calvin Ridley?
Why is that cheating?
I don't know, because I mean, who is thinking of Calvin Ridley? Because he was suspended for the year.
Well, that's the whole thing. That's what I'm saying. Somebody that's just off the radar for being top 5. No, I love that because I got him for $2, $3 next year in my league of record. I applaud you. I pray that your soothsaying ways are correct.
Look, Trevor Lawrence is not getting any worse, and Doug Peterson obviously has shown he's a great coach. You got Christian Kirk running out of the slot all over the place, taking some heat off of you, and Calvin Ridley showed he could do it. I think he was, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was a top 5 receiver. He's been one in his career.
He was as far as fantasy goes. Gave up.
Yeah. So
I was reading something the other day about his numbers were like a top 3 dude between 2 seasons of, you take these games like the second half of one season, first half the next, that he was just unstoppable. So, dude, I pray that you're right.
Well, good. I'm glad you actually. Yeah, he was in 2020. He was wide receiver 4. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, and Calvin Ridley.
Yep. So I have 3 guys I want to mention real quick. We don't have to stay long on them. One of them's Judy with Sean Payton. We talked about it before the show. Here's a guy, man, if he can make him into Mike Thomas, I know they don't quite play the exact same position, but wow, could that take off? Another one, Garrett Wilson. If Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets, which it seems like we're steamrolling maybe towards that, just like his buddy Favre went there. We'll have to see. Of course, I guess he went to the Vikings first and then the Jets, or is it the Jets then the Vikings?
I think it was Vikings first. Isn't it interesting how their careers are just mirroring each other?
So weird.
Favre got Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers might be getting Aaron Rodgers by Jordan Love, and they both might end up in the Jets. I love it.
The endless retirement rumors.
Yes, it's so great.
If Aaron Rodgers starts sending pictures of his junk to reporters, then they're going to be in the freaking same stratosphere. Now, another one then, one more. And Garrett Wilson came on, if you saw, he put it on Twitter either yesterday or today, that he's actively recruiting Rodgers. He wants to come. He said, even if it's for 1 year, the things we can do. And he said, the things he can teach me for the future, like, please come. But I got one more outside one. And this is based on the rumors of today that the New Orleans Saints and Derek Carr are in talks. Mr. Chris Olave.
But Derek Carr's not great.
No, he's not great, but he's good. Look what your boy threw up Adams this year. Derek Carr's a good, solid quarterback. And when you have a receiver like him, which is much better than having Jameis or the Red Rifle throwing to you, or freaking, what's the tight end that throws once in a while? All those guys throwing to him.
Taysom Hill.
Yes. All of a sudden, Olave has 110 catches, 1,400 yards, and 9 touchdowns. And could squeak in. Again, we're looking about guys on the outside. I'm not saying that I'm sitting here now and I'm going to bet my mortgage on that. But I think that's a good situation because Derek Carr's a way better quarterback than what he gets credit for. I don't know why he gets so much crap.
Well, he certainly doesn't do it in as far as a fantasy perspective goes.
He's a little up and down, but he's still a good, solid quarterback, and I think that could drastically improve that offense. And Mr. Olave could have a big year. Got to stay healthy too. Stay away from the concussions.
Yeah. All right. Just so you know, heads up, I couldn't help myself. I got started digging into film. I've gotten about maybe 10 or 11 guys who have broken down their film already. These draft hopefuls coming out, and
I've
I'm
started
excited,
too.
man.
I've got a name for you.
Really? Wait,
I've
you
got
don't
a,
hold on. No. Hold on. You don't do this until about mid-March.
yeah.
So what has happened? What's
I
gotten
had
into
to
you,
because
sir?
the name came out, and then I had to start looking at him and a couple other people.
Okay.
What do you know about a Mr. Tyson Bagent?
I haven't got to him yet.
Have you heard of him though?
I have.
So his dad is considered one of the top 3 arm wrestlers of all time, world history.
Right. Right.
Do
I
you
did
know
hear
the
that.
school Mr. Tyson Bagent goes to?
Oh, come on. I just saw this like 3 days ago.
How
Not off
could
the top of
you?
my
Then
head.
you have to remember. It's my alma mater, Shepherd University. He goes to
Hold on.
Shepherd.
Yeah. He's quarterback, right?
He is a quarterback.
Yeah.
He's
I
the
know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah.
all-time NCAA leader now in touchdown throws, 159 touchdowns.
Yeah.
6'3", 210, threw for just under 17,000 yards and a 69% completion rate for his career.
I'm
And
at
they're
you.
talking he might go as early as the 5th round. And I've seen numerous things today that have him going to Seattle as Geno Smith's backup.
He went to the Senior Bowl, didn't he? Didn't he get
He
invited
did go
to
to the
at least
Senior Bowl and he dominated. Yeah. And he also has been invited to the Combine.
I got one for you. Holton Ahlers.
Don't know him.
Yeah. ECU's quarterback right here in Greenville, buddy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He played well. He's like ECU's career leader and a lot of stuff for quarterbacks. He went to high school here in Greenville too. Stayed there, went to ECU.
Yeah, this guy went to Martinsburg.
So right. So they end up he goes to the Birmingham Bowl, something like that. One of the bowl games for ECU, dominates as the MVP. And like, okay, we'll send you. And I'm going to talk about him. This is going to happen in a later show. But he goes to one of these all-star games in like Honolulu, Hawaii. Guess who's the game's MVP? Bang, him. So they're like, okay, we'll send you to this other all-star game. Bang, MVP again. 3 in a row for him.
So is this a draftable guy or is this a guy that's going to probably be a UDFA?
He wasn't
because
I
haven't seen his name.
Right. But after back-to-back MVPs in these bowl games and all-star games, his name's being floated around there as a possible draft pick. So good for him. I love it. Good hometown story. He stayed here, and I'm rooting for the kid.
Yeah, and he'll be like Tyson Bagent here. They're saying he's going to be an RPO type quarterback, but he's really going to need at least a year, if not 2, riding the pines, playing with the practice squad, and learning the speed of the NFL. Because the fact is, as great as he was and all these NCAA records he set, they made the semis of Division II this year. Division II football is not the NFL.
100%.
Yeah, so he's going to need some time. But, man, I couldn't believe that a dude from Martinsburg that went to my alma mater, a rinky-dink school in Shepherdstown, West Virginia, is most likely going to be drafted in the top 5 or 6 rounds.
Yeah, Holton is 6'4", 230.
Okay.
He's a big boy, and he can run it, man. He's tough to bring down, and he's lefty, which is cool.
Very good.
All right, sir. I'm excited, man. I get on these film. As soon as we get off here, I'm going downstairs and I'm going to be watching some more guys on film.
I almost get more excited about the draft than I do the actual season. The season is nothing but headaches and nightmares and panic. The draft is actually fun. I wish we would go to it.
Dude, we have to.
What
I don't even know where
it is this year.
I was just getting ready to ask you.
Well,
I don't know, but
we
can
definitely
look
into it. I'd gladly go, man. I think it'd be awesome. I'll gladly go down there for a few days and and let all my tennis, everything else can do its own thing. The girl could stay with her mom. I'm on it. I'd love to go.
Awesome. If not this year, sometime soon.
Well, I say we just make it happen. What's with all this
All right.
BS?
Let's do it. Okay.
Sounds like you're
All
playing
right.
me the fool.
Don't talk about it. Be about it. Let's do it. All right. Awesome. Thank you all for listening.
Where does that come
Oh
from?
man. I don't know. My heart. Check us out. Facebook. Where are we at? Spotify, YouTube. Get Your Bell Rung Football Podcast. You guys are awesome. If you got questions, stuff, hit us up, man. Throw some comments, questions out there. Let's do it. Let's chat. All right, Kevin. You're the
See you,
man.
brother.
I'll see you in a week.
Later.